Charles Spurgeon says, thus our elder brother Jesus, who is Lord over the earth, the whole earth, for the good of his church, takes care to nourish all his Father's household according to their families. Be pleased, O Jesus, to let this family share in thy great love. You know, I think there's a lesson here. There's a truth here. God will always provide. In the midst of a famine, in the midst of that trial, he will never not provide. That's just not who he is. That's not how he is. His children never beg bread. He will always provide. Now, he may not always provide in the way that we think he should, or when we think he should. We get disenchanted with God sometimes, don't we, when he doesn't do what we want when we want him to do it. God's not in a hurry. God's timing is perfect, and he knows what we need. And sometimes I think that we try to convince God that that desire is really a need. Well, God doesn't always fulfill all of our desires, let alone all of our wants, but he will always provide and make provision for all of our needs. Verse 13, now there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very severe, so that the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan languished because of the famine. Now, this is interesting. I don't know if you caught it here, but heretofore, Egypt was untouched by the famine. But we're going now into the third year, the fourth year. It's going to be a 7-year famine. And apparently, Egypt is starting to feel it now, because it says that the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan languished because of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the grain which they bought, and Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. Verse 15, so when the money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For the money has failed. This is interesting because the famine was so severe that the food had become more valuable than the money that was used to buy it. And now, all the money that was used to buy it is in the coffers of Pharaoh. And now nobody has any more money. And they don't have any food either. So what are they going to do? Well, verse 16 tells us. Then Joseph said, give your livestock, and I will give you bread for your livestock. If the money is gone. So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for the horses, the flocks, the cattle of the herds, and for the donkeys. Thus, he fed them with bread in exchange for all their livestock that year. So now in lieu of the money, since there is no more money, he accepts Visa, MasterCard, and livestock. They have to. That's all they have left. And apparently, as we'll see in a moment, the livestock's only going to suffice for about a year. And in the next verse, it's going to get even worse in the following year. So verse 18, when that year had ended, they came to him the next year and said to him, we will not hide from my Lord that our money is gone. My Lord also has our herds of livestock. There is nothing left in the sight of my Lord but our bodies and our lands. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants of Pharaoh. Give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land may not be desolate. So basically they come to Joseph and tell him they can't hide from him the fact that they've got no more money now and they've got no more livestock now. And the only thing they have left is property, is land, and themselves. And they're offering themselves as slaves, and they even ask for seed. They have no alternative if they want to survive. So verse 20, then Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, for every man of the Egyptians sold his field because the famine was severe upon them. So the land became Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he moved them into the cities from one end of the borders of Egypt to the other end. Only the land of the priests he did not buy, for the priests had rations allotted to them by Pharaoh, and they ate their rations which Pharaoh gave them. Therefore, they did not sell their lands. Wow. Now, at this point, you might be inclined to have ill will towards Joseph because it seems like he's taking advantage of a bad situation. I suggest to you he's not. It might seem like that. However, the fact of the matter is Joseph is being most prudent with what he's doing. He is exercising, unimaginable wisdom and prudence in his administration of rationing what's left in these final years of the famine, which has now taken its toll even in the land of Egypt. See, if he didn't charge them for the grain, they wouldn't ration it. Think about this. If it comes cheaply, if it comes freely, if it comes easily, we don't appreciate it. But when it comes hard, when it doesn't come easy, and you know you don't have that much, isn't it true that you ration it? You really are frugal with it? So he's being prudent. And this is wisdom. It's not price gouging. It's wisdom. Verse 23. Then Joseph said to the people, indeed, I have bought you and your land this day for Pharaoh. Look, here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the harvest that you shall give 1/5 to Pharaoh. 4/5 shall be your own as seed for the field and for your food, for those of your households, and as food for your little ones. Notice again the prudent planning on Joseph's part. You realize how much administration this would take? How much savvy this would take? How much akamai this would take? This is unbelievable. And he offers them seed to work the very land that they had just sold to get grain. And he's making a deal with them. He's making an offer to them. He says to them, work the ground. It's our land, but I'll give you seed. And from all of the harvest that is produced from the land, you can keep 80%. But Pharaoh gets 20%. Now, again, at first glance, you're thinking, man, this is what deal. Deal. Think about it. 20% of something is better than 0% of nothing. Now, I know that's pretty elementary math, but it's true, isn't it? That's better than 0. I'll take 80%. That's a good deal. So verse 25, they said, you have saved our lives. Let us find favor in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt to this day that Pharaoh should have 1/5 except for the land of the priests only, which did not become Pharaoh's. Notice there's no attitude, only gratitude. They respond with unspeakable gratitude. And they say to Joseph, in effect, thank you. You have saved our lives. Because now, think about this. After they've sold their land and themselves as slaves, what are they going to do next? There's nothing left. When you sell yourself as a slave, that's pretty much the end. That's what they mean by you have saved our lives. What you've in effect done, Joseph, is you've provided us a way to survive for the rest of this famine. We still got a little ways to go in this famine. So a law is put in place, and 1/5 of all the harvest goes to Pharaoh. Unspeakable wealth still in Egypt. So, verse 27, Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions there, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. Exceedingly means exceedingly. And that is exactly what they did. They prospered and they grew almost immeasurably.